Hey everybody, this is Mattie with Altcoin Buzz. A fine weekend to all you out there in the altcoin army. And as usual, we have a few things that we're going to look at today in the news. We're looking at this story out of China. So a Chinese crypto miner that ran into some trouble with the law for what he did, how he acquired his electricity. We have a dramatic update with Mr. John McAfee, quote unquote dramatic. And I'm going to ask you guys the question later as to whether or not you think that John should still be taken seriously. Whether we ought to take him at his word, these updates, these things that are in the news lately, I don't know. I get the sense that his credibility is wearing a little bit thin. But there's a development there we're going to take a look at. We have news out of Tokyo surrounding Mount GOX, which is going to be interesting and impactful, I think. But first, on the lighter side of things, we have this article by Christopher on altcoinbuzz.io. Amsterdam Airport lets travelers swap euros for Bitcoin and Ethereum. So passengers at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam can now exchange their leftover euros for Bitcoin or Ethereum at a Bitcoin ATM. So it's nothing revolutionary. It's not the first time this has been featured, but it's the first time that we see this in Amsterdam. And as pointed out here, it's a trial version in a European airport to see what happens. So you have the Director of Consumer Products and Services at Amsterdam Airport who says, quote, Schiphol is constantly looking for ways to innovate and provide optimum service to passengers. I don't know if it's about optimum service. I think it's just a way to make money. This is a free market way to earn revenue, right? The idea is that you have these busy airports, and whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's anything else, people have leftover euros. So let's say I'm in Amsterdam, I'm coming back to Canada or the US. I have leftover euros that I can't spend at home. And, I think that's the sort of thing that may pique somebody's interest if they want to dabble in this. Bitcoin and Ethereum are arguably some of the safer bets. And that's what they're looking to do. So it's a 6-month trial aimed at exploring whether a demand for this service exists among passengers. And you have Herma Visya, director of Bilex, says, quote, we are excited that Schiphol is willing to join us in exploring ways to introduce passengers to the new crypto reality. And you guys may remember there was a company by the name of Travel by Bit that did a similar project earlier in the year at Brisbane Airport. And, airports are effective for this reason. Like I said, guys, people have extra leftover currency lying around that they're not necessarily going to want to spend back home. So all of these impulse buys happen at airports for that reason. But these are by no means the only crypto ATMs in the world. Where I'm located here in Canada, I have Bitcoin ATMs that are starting to pop up all over the city. And whether it's an airport or whether it's something in a more urban setting, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that. Maybe you have some of them popping up in your neighborhoods as well, or your places of business, what have you, depending on where you are in the world. Let us know about that in the comments. Let us know whether you think this project, this trial phase, is going to be successful. So here you can read about it at news.schiphol.com. Exchange leftover euros for Bitcoin or Ethereum at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. Let me know if I'm getting that wrong. Is that Schiphol or Schiphol? Or I don't know. I feel like it almost sounds like, it half sounds like a dirty word when it's coming out of my mouth. So I'm going to end it there. But you can also check out the travelbybit.com website here. So these are the guys that set up shop at Brisbane Airport in Australia. And I'm sure they have plans to continue expanding elsewhere. In other news, and this article by Licia, Chinese police arrests a miner for stealing electricity. So it has emerged that the police in East China's Anhui province detained a Bitcoin miner named Ma, who allegedly stole 150,000 kilowatt hours of electricity in order to fund his unprofitable mining farm, reports Xinhuanet. So to add insult to injury, the guy gets busted and it's not a profitable operation. That's unfortunately. So he laments the fact, this Mr. Ma, that he wanted to make it big in the world of crypto mining, but his daily power costs were very excessive and they were exceeding 6,000 yuan, so just under $1,000 per day. So he decided to, quote, borrow some electricity to basically keep his dream afloat. And they caught him. They recognized some abnormalities in the power grid, in the flow. They detected the fact that he was siphoning off some electricity. So they seized over 200 of his computers, the police did, which were used to mine Bitcoin and Ethereum. So it goes to show that even with that much processing power. I'm presuming he had some decent rigs, 200 computers, but just the price of electricity was that high. So I guess it's not exactly a cheap option to operate the way that he was doing in China. So, quote, Hanshan County Police found that the electricity meter for the suspected cryptocurrency mining operation had been short-circuited, which was likely an attempt to dodge the power bill. So it's interesting to note that in 2017, there was some data that suggested that up to 70% of Bitcoin mining activity takes place in China. And that's a controversial thing because it's not necessarily all purely legal, if you know what I mean. I'm sure there are some operations that are fully legit, but I think others are a little bit more surreptitious in the way they go about their business. So, quote, it's a hard time for the mining business in China, said Jack Liao, the owner of several Bitcoin mines in the country, in an interview with CNN Money. He then said that he is currently contemplating, quote, moving some of his operations overseas, with Canada, the US, and Iceland among the top candidates. So we talked about the US recently, Missoula province out in the northwest. We talked about Canada recently, the fact that Hydro-Quebec, basically the provincial power provider where I am in the province of Quebec, is just being overwhelmed by demand and interest in cryptocurrency mining. So it looks like some of these Chinese operations may perhaps be moving overseas. And then you have the co-chief executive Jihan Wu of Bitmain, who's talking about consumer grade 16nm ASIC miners. And he's talking about how they're looking at actually diversifying or perhaps focusing on other aspects of tech, looking specifically at artificial intelligence. So that's an interesting thing to note, and we're going to link to an article that describes that in further detail. You guys can also read about some of the statements that have come out of China from President Xi Jinping. We've discussed that quite a bit, so I'll leave that to your discretion if you want to check it out further. But relating to this, on Xinhua Net, Chinese police seized 200 computers used to mine Bitcoin and Ethereum. I still find it hard to believe that 200 computers, I mean, that's almost like you're getting economies of scale at that point. That's a pretty big operation. And the fact that it still wasn't profitable, $1,000 a day in electricity. It's interesting to see how that turned out given the variables. And here you have CNN Tech. China's unwanted Bitcoin miners may move to Canada. All right. I like that. So, I mean, this relates to that article that we looked at relating to Hydro-Quebec, relating to the low electricity costs that we have here in my home province. You can take a look at that on the CNN website. And here you have Bitmain. Take a look at Bitmain. Just one better choice, btc.com pool. Bitmain, if they do go into AI, I don't exactly know what the relationship would be there. I mean, they're a tech company, so it's not the longest leap in the world. But for those that are more techie out there in the altcoin army, is that something that can you power AI technology with some of these mining cards? I don't know. I'm just asking. Let me know in the comments. Be curious to know your thoughts about that and their plan to diversify into the world of artificial intelligence. In other news here, and I'm not going to dwell on this. I know many of you are not big fans of John McAfee, but the man claims to have survived an assassination attempt. So here you have an article by Alicia, who writes about how John McAfee, former CEO of MGT Capital and an omnipresent figure in the cryptocurrency world, believes that his enemies attempted to poison him. Maybe they were too fed up with some of the false predictions at this point. So you can take a look at the tweets. McAfee wrote, I apologize for my 3-day absence, but I was unconscious for 2 days at the Vidant Medical Center in North Carolina and just woke up. My enemies managed to spike something that I ingested. However, I am more difficult to kill than anyone can possibly imagine. I'm back. Mr. Rasputin here. So he did post some pictures on Twitter discussing this. Sounds a little bit vengeful in his tone. You will soon understand the true meaning of wrath. I know exactly who you are. You had better be gone. So his purported assassins better hope that he never becomes president one day, because then they're really going to get it. So I don't know, guys. I mean, we talked about the other day how a lot of what McAfee says is becoming less and less credible, at least in my opinion, and the opinion of my co-hosts on the Altcoin Buzz podcast, Alicia and James. Is this the kind of thing that somebody would do to drum up publicity or attention? I don't know, because don't forget, he talked about how the price of Bitcoin would reach $15,000 this month in June. we're certainly not there yet. I mean, we just had a major slump. We just had a pretty big retracement in the market, so we're moving in the opposite direction, unfortunately. I'm not going to accuse John of doing this as a publicity stunt, but I mean, I don't know. He's not the kind of person that I can take at face value anymore. However, he was in the hospital. Let's give him that. So you can take a look at some of the pictures there. We'll see. I'm curious to know your thoughts, guys. Just covering it because it's something in the crypto news, but take it with a grain of salt. And in a big news story today, probably the biggest one that we're covering here, to be fair, the ghost of Mt. Gox is done haunting the world for now. So, article here by Chris. Tokyo District Court allows Mt. Gox to stop selling Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash for the time being. Hopefully, in the coming months, Mt. Gox will start paying back their creditors, preferably with Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. So, hopefully, I mean, that's the the rhetoric that's being used here. That's the word choice. Hopefully, the Tokyo District Court has accepted Mt. Gox's motion to end their bankruptcy. This ruling comes after months of selling thousands of Bitcoin back in December, March, and May. Hopefully, soon, Mt. Gox will start paying its creditors back after the hack years ago. Just the way that the terminology is used, the fact that hopefully they're going to start it, it doesn't seem like there's any necessarily legal push or mandatory obligatory action that must be taken. But let's see. So their legal representation out of New York is basically saying the hope is that they will end up distributing cryptocurrency back. They're not yet optimistic about a full victory, but that's sort of the state of affairs as far as the update. So they're in this phase now where they're looking to rehabilitate themselves. Perhaps that Tokyo court ruling is going to help them to that end. And to that end, a rehabilitation, is a quote, a rehabilitation plan to certainly, to that end, a rehabilitation plan to certainly and promptly realize creditors' rights should be prepared, approved at the creditors' meeting, and approved by the court. A rehabilitation plan which provides creditors' rights in the proceedings will be primarily prepared by the trustee. Therefore, creditors' opinions will not always be reflected to the rehabilitation plan prepared by the trustee, one of the New York-based lawyers said. So, I don't know. I mean, even with this ruling, does that mean they're going to be in a position to be able to pay back creditors? I think if that were the case, this would certainly have positive waves in the world of crypto, but I can't say that I'm holding my breath. So as commented here just at the very end of the article, regardless of what happens, it is good news that they will not be selling for the time being. So once again, the Tokyo District Court has accepted Mt. Gox's motion to end their bankruptcy. So that chapter of this particular organization seems to be coming to an end. Again, not holding my breath. I'm not expecting it to follow immediately, but yes, eventually, once the rehabilitation plan hopefully provides something fruitful, then that's going to be the next step to push towards repaying some of those creditors. So do be sure to leave a comment for Chris. Let us know your thoughts about this situation. Mt. Gox has really done a number on the crypto space and the crypto community. I mean, you talk about these hypothetical ideas of, well, what if, we hadn't gone through the dark ages? What if electricity had been developed by the Greeks or Romans? And I think the same way about cryptocurrency. We move so quickly in this crypto space. What if Mt. Gox had been a legitimate, transparent, well-run company that did not suffer from negligent or incompetent leadership? Can you imagine how much further along we'd be in terms of mass enthusiasm and popular adoption, consumer adoption, merchant adoption? Would be years ahead of where we are now, unfortunately. Well, whether fortunately or unfortunately depends how you think about that, but a little bit of a thought experiment for you guys there. So do be sure to leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this situation. You can read about this here in Finance Magnates. Mt. Gox creditors find new hope as court halts bankruptcy and approves rehab. Is that a false hope? What do you think the creditors are going through right now? Do you think they are in a reasonable position to assume they will be repaid? Let us know your thoughts, guys. And do be sure you're following Altcoin Buzz News on Twitter. Check out our latest podcast, guys. In addition to these most recent articles, of course, we're going to put out the latest content for you, original stuff, as well as opinion pieces and stuff that we're covering from all around the world. But you can check out our Altcoin Buzz podcast. You can check it out on iTunes. You can check it out on YouTube. There's other sources as well that we'll link to. And yeah, make it interactive. Make sure you're commenting and let us know what you want us to cover going forward and what you think about our style so far. It's always something that's a work in progress, right? We're always improving as we go forward, and we do take your comments and your thoughts into consideration. So with that, guys, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Not financial advice, but if you're buying on the dip here and you're scooping up some crypto at low prices, I wish you happy investing. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. We have new content for you every day, and we'll see you again soon in the next video. Take care, everyone.